2, 1, ignition, and lift off. Go Falcon, go Dragon.
Liftoff, NASA's SpaceX 32nd commercial.
All righty, folks, welcome back. Now, that was a look at the NASA and SpaceX launch of a Dragon spacecraft on a Falcon 9 rocket from Kennedy Space Center. This was the 32nd SpaceX commercial resupply services mission to the International Space Station. I was there. I was invited to cover it as media. I had to arrive there at 1:30 in the morning. Got no sleep. And waited till a 4:15 liftoff. Went off perfectly, went off on time, beautiful. And I'm showing you a little bit of video. Mad Dog, can you put the sound up on this one? Yeah, listen to this. I mean, it's just amazing, amazing. You could feel the ground rumble. You could feel your chest vibrating from it. And the sky lit up, completely lit up in the middle of the night. Went off at about 4:15, maybe 20, maybe 10 seconds, a little bit late just after the zeros came across on the T-minus clock. It was amazing. Just an absolute amazing liftoff. Again, that's SpaceX saving you taxpayers money because the rocket booster comes out. Should I have gotten into that NASA space outfit? I'm not sure. The rocket comes back and SpaceX has it so that the rockets aren't discarded anymore, spending millions and millions upon millions, hundreds of millions of dollars actually, and they're reusable because of SpaceX and the joint venture between SpaceX and NASA proving to be very, very successful. Also today, the Pope passed. Pope Francis, 88 years old, folks. He suffered a double pneumonia, which caused his death because it developed a stroke, which put him in a coma and led to heart failure. Though sick, the Pope did make an appearance at Easter Mass in St. Peter's Square yesterday and greeted thousands in his open-air Pope-mobile. Vatican spokesperson Matteo Bruni said the Pope will lie in state in St. Peter's, well, not in state, I guess, will be placed in St. Peter's Basilica on Wednesday morning so that the faithful may pray before his mortal remains. Now, the way it works is it'll probably be a funeral Thursday or Friday, potentially Saturday. And then there's 8 days of mourning the Pope. And then they'll go back into the conclave and they'll get behind closed doors. And however long it takes them to decide who the next Pope is, that's how long it'll take. And then you see the white smoke coming out of the Vatican, you know they've decided on a new Pope. So that happened today. Very oddly, just a couple hours after J.D. Vance visited the Pope. So yeah, I mean, obviously the left is going crazy calling J.D. Vance the Antichrist, which is obviously not the case. A celebrity died. That's what happened. A Pope died. That's what happened, not because of J.D. Vance. Anyway, just thought I'd put it out there. The other news of the day, look at that. Take a look at these markets, and it's kind of ugly. It's a little bit ugly, folks. Dow ending 971 points lower. At one point, it was 1,300 points lower. S&P down a bunch, 124. NASDAQ down 415. That was down 700 at one point. And some of the bigger name stocks, and these are the ones that are in your 401ks, they are in my stock trading accounts because they're active. NVIDIA down a ton of $6-7 and ended up down $5. Tesla got destroyed. Tesla was down $14 a share. So again, maybe we'll talk to Bannon about later, but I just have never been on board with these tariffs. I know Trump's got a vision. I hope he's right. I hope for all of our sakes, he's right. I just don't get this idea with the tariffs. There are ways to play hardball with other countries on trade. Developing a global trade war, it's not the way I want to do it. Again, 20 years on Wall Street. When government gets involved in markets, they usually screw them up. All right, folks. Jamie Raskin, doing what he does best across the aisle, the Maryland mouthpiece, as we like to call him, joined Jen Psaki to complain about none other than his favorite thing to complain about, Donald Trump, and fearmonger about the president's work by using big words and making tired references to the last century. Listen to Jamie Raskin.
Whether threatening or not threatening, but kind of appealing to or focusing public messaging on the leaders who are doing this is part of what you think is effective here, part of what Van Hollen did.
Yeah, well, I was very proud of my friend Chris Van Hollen for what he did because he restored the humanity to this whole controversy that's going on, and he wasn't afraid, or he felt some fear, but he moved forward and he showed everybody, yeah, we can get on an airplane and we can go and face the problem directly. And then, of course, they've been lying about the trip and tried to stage some false margarita scene there.
It's insane. This is one of those issues that you just wonder why the Democrats are picking this fight and why they want to do this. Again, it's what I've been saying all along. If Trump said, I love oxygen, Democrats would say, well, we don't like oxygen. You're wrong for loving oxygen, Mr. Trump. We're deranged. This lunatic, this illegal was in the country. He broke the law, becoming trying to get into the country, trying to become a citizen, getting into the country. And then when his own wife tries to get him arrested for domestic abuse 2 times, cops investigated. It was found that he's an MS-13 gang member. For the Democrats to go, for Chris Van Hollen, the senator from Maryland, to go to El Salvador and have margaritas with this domestic terrorist, they're going to lose. They're going to get smoked. But Raskin, he doesn't get it. Raskin went on to cheer for his pal, Chris Van Hollen, the deranged senator, travel again to El Salvador in that act of defiance against Trump. It was all about Trump. It wasn't about the guy is a bad guy. They know he's a bad guy. It wasn't about that. It was just defying Trump. Listen to Raskin phrase and praise his friend who made a ton of noise, but really got nothing done.
Yeah, well, I was very proud of my friend Chris Van Hollen for what he did, because he restored the humanity to this whole controversy that's going on, and he wasn't afraid, or he felt some fear, but he moved forward and he showed everybody, yeah, we can get on an airplane and we can go and face the problem directly. And then, of course, they've been lying about the trip and tried to stage some false margarita scene there. But look, President Bukele, who's declared himself a dictator, and the other tyrants, dictators, autocrats of the world have to understand that the Trump administration is not going to last forever. We're going to restore strong democracy to America, and we will remember who stood up for democracy in America and who tried to drive us down towards dictatorship and autocracy. So,
no, you didn't stand up for democracy in America. That guy has no rights. He's not an American citizen. He has absolutely no right to due process at all. I don't know where you're getting. Chris Van Hollen stood up he stood up for a terrorist. He stood up for a thug. He stood up for an illegal who came here illegally. His own wife wanted to throw him in jail. That's who you're standing up for, you clowns, you lunatic leftists. Raskin's comments lead me to my next topic. Van Hollen's shameless political stunt in El Salvador. Let's take a look, a little deeper dive into it. As if the trip and media coverage weren't bad enough, here's Van Hollen giving a press conference, and I guess he's sprinkling a little bit of fake emotion with his little act. Watch.
El pueblo unido jamás será vencido.
It's good to be home.
Yeah.
Now we need to end the illegal abduction of Kilmar Abrego Garcia and bring him home too. Look, I'm a little sleep deprived, and I want to be as clear as possible about what this is about and what it's not about. So I'm going to read the remarks that I wrote on the plane ride home. As the federal courts have said, we need to bring Mr. Abrego Garcia home to protect his constitutional rights to due process.
Van Hollen said he was a little sleep deprived. I think he's a little IQ deprived. Mr. Abrego Garcia, he is home in El Salvador. He's not home. His home isn't here. His home is in El Salvador. Stop it. You lefty lunatic losers. You're going to keep losing. Van Hollen landed home, immediately kickstarted a media tour, which should surprise no one. But here he's on ABC, of course, talking about the rights of this deported banger.
So what did Abrego Garcia tell you?
He told me about the trauma he had been experiencing, both in terms of the abduction and the fact that he was originally sent to CICOT, which is this notorious prison.
Yeah, we've seen the
He told me
images.
how much he missed his wife and his kids. He specifically mentioned his 5-year-old boy who has autism, because that boy had been in the car with him when U.S. agents had stopped them and handcuffed him and then taken him away. So he described all that, and he told me that he had moved recently to a new prison facility. So those are some of the highlights.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sure. You're defending a criminal. He broke the law coming here, probably broke a lot of other laws as well. Keep working that. Let's not forget, though. Let's not forget who's funding this little escapade by Van Hollen. Trust me when I tell you this. Trust me when I tell you this. We, the people, are paying. The senator is aware that his travels are coming out of your and my tax dollars. And I can assure you, he doesn't care one iota.
Who did pay for this trip?
This was an officially cleared, congressional trip, cleared on a bipartisan basis. Yes, like every other trip.
It's cleared. It's called a CODEL, congressional delegation. It's what they do. It means you and I pay for it, and they can go wherever the hell they want around the world, as long as you're doing official business. Okay, you do official business according to who? We still paid for it. 3/4 of the country are in favor of Trump's deporting illegals. So 3/4 of the country pay for something that they don't agree with. Mad Dog, skip this one. Drop down to the next one. I want to talk to the one after. Yeah, by now we know not to trust the mega mainstream media monsters yet. Listen to their slimy ways of covering up the truth, and they need to be continuously exposed. Now, here's MSNBC. Get this. MSNBC cutting away from Trump as he read details about Abrego Garcia's sinister past. Watch.
In 2019, Garcia was issued a deportation order. 2 separate judges affirmed Garcia was a member of MS-13, which is a gang that may be even worse.
We've been watching President Donald Trump there swearing in the new administrator of the CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, Dr. Mehmet Oz, during this conversation.
So, if you notice at RAB, we take the president's comments in full always. If he's speaking, we're going to take it. MSNBC just dipped out of the president of the United States. Now, I'll never forget when Neil Cavuto dipped out of the president of the United States. We lit him up for that. I mean, he did that once, and look where he is now. He's retired. MSNBC dipping out of the, like him or not, we wouldn't dip out of Joe Biden if he spoke, and we hated everything he said. We couldn't even understand half the things he said, but we didn't dip out. You listen to the president of the United States. If you're on the other side, you listen anyway, because elections have consequences. MSNBC, no wonder you're tanking. CNN, no wonder you're tanking. All right, folks, before we head to break, I want to remind you all about my podcast and YouTube page, which are both updated daily. You can hear this show, of course, but tons and tons of other content uploads. And you can watch it anywhere, anytime. It's free. Be sure to subscribe. You just got to hit subscribe on both YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts. Don't miss out on unique content. All right, we'll be back in 2.5 minutes. Well, that's Marco Island, Florida. Mad Dog, can you come on? Can I get the voice of God, Mad Dog?
Yes, sir.
Remember when you had it, Macro Island?
I do. The spell check. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a spell check issue. I just have to ask you one question. Marco.
Polo.
Say Polo. There you go. Well, the Supreme Court has temporarily blocked the deportation of Venezuelan migrants, citing a wartime law. Here to discuss this is host of RAV's Law and Border, Ben Berquam. Ben, it's got to be really, really, really disappointing for the folks that you travel with quite a bit. You travel with ICE, Border Patrol. It's got to be really upsetting when they hear this, a judge overruling the president of the United States in securing our own border. Your thoughts?
Well, we had 4 years of our government not doing background checks, our government not doing the due diligence that they're supposed to do to protect the American people, the citizens of this country. And now you've got the ACLU, the American so-called Civil Liberties Union, going in and protecting illegals. It is absolutely disgusting. You've got millions and millions of illegals here, millions, hundreds of thousands. Is not an exaggeration of gang members here. And their focus is on stopping these deportations, saying that they're not getting due process. Well, excuse me. They didn't get the due process when they came in. They shouldn't get the due process when we send them back out. So I really, really hope this is a very short temporary injunction. But yes, as far as the ICE agents in the field, they're pissed. They just want to be able to get these guys out of our country.
What due process? What do you mean due? I mean, American citizens get due process because we're American citizens. That's call it what, the luck of the lottery of being born in America, or an anchor baby being born here on purpose. But with that, we are the people who have due process. We don't owe someone who illegally comes across the border. And then this whole idea that, well, now we're seeking asylum. No, you can't cross the border and then decide when you get caught you're seeking asylum. It doesn't work that way. And you explain to the folks the process of asylum seeking.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is the whole process involves going to the first safe country outside of your country and applying. As soon as you skip that, so if you're in Venezuela and you go to Colombia and you skip Colombia, you no longer qualify for asylum in America. And then you skip Panama and Costa Rica and Nicaragua. Not that anyone's going to stay in Nicaragua, and Honduras and Guatemala and Mexico. All of that, it annuls your justification for asylum in the United States. Now, that is if we actually had a government under Joe Biden who was following the law, which they clearly weren't. And the irony of all this, you watch and listen to these fake news media broadcasters, you just played them cutting away from President Trump. They didn't care when Joe Biden was breaking the law, was undermining our immigration law, and intentionally doing this. The whole point behind all of this, it wasn't an accident. The 4 years of Joe Biden, this was not accidental. They were inviting this invasion into our country. They intentionally didn't do background checks on these people. They let them into our country. And now they have the nerve to say these people deserve due process. They didn't deserve due process then. They needed to be processed and deported, but they sure as hell didn't need to be brought into our country. And now what President Trump's doing is actually trying to right that wrong. And you've got, unfortunately, some of these justices at least temporarily blocking it. Again, I hope it's a very short temporary injunction and this gets back on track very, very soon. But beyond that, the biggest problem we have right now, Eric, are these activist judges and these organizations, these leftist organizations that are putting foreign illegal aliens above American citizens and putting every single one of our lives in danger and taking away our rights. They're taking away the citizens' rights of this nation.
You know how what's really disturbing about this whole exercise going on? They say, the Maryland man. They keep calling Abrego Garcia the Maryland. No, he's not Salvadoran. He's not a Maryland man. It's disgusting. The guy's wife tried to get him thrown in jail for domestic abuse. But here's the thing. All of a sudden, the world isn't looking for asylum. Now that they know that once we realize and Trump's going to send him back, they don't want asylum anymore. It's just absolute proof that this whole idea of offering asylum to 300,000 a month that Biden was doing was nothing more than just allowing them to right past them into the country.
Yeah, no, this is the game. And so there's an industry around this. There are organizations, we've reported on all of them for years now. There are 9 primary asylum organizations. Catholic Charities is the tip of the spear, but Lutheran Social Services, Bethany Christian, Jewish Family Services, all of these organizations, along with hundreds of little ones like El Otro Lado, Pueblo Sin Fronteras, Central Sin Fronteras, all of these organizations are funded by illegal immigration. And so they are constantly looking for ways to undermine our legal immigration process and bring more illegals in. They are really the guiding light, the force behind the Democrat policy on immigration. And so the reason we saw so many illegals come in claiming fake asylum is they were all coached by these organizations on how to break the law and come in. Now you have a president and an administration that doesn't allow that law breaking. The world knows, the world got the memo. They got the memo when the doors were open. Now they got the memo when the doors are closed. The key, though, now is getting rid of the ones that they let in.
Yeah. Not only that, but in closing this BS loophole with the NGOs, as you point out, Catholic Charities and other, one of the NGOs that did exactly that, they housed illegals, they hid illegals from ICE, is Judge Boasberg's own daughter, Catherine, which is insanely horrible. That judge is stopping deportations because it's against Trump's policy, and his own daughter is benefiting from the Biden era wide open policy. Real quick, I have 30 seconds. Can you comment on that just atrocious idea that a judge would do that.
Yeah, anybody, first he should be removed from the bench, and anyone found aiding and abetting illegals should be prosecuted. And I don't care if they're a judge, an activist, an attorney, they all should be prosecuted.
All right. You know what, Ben, we're going to leave it there and stay safe. And again, next time you're traveling with the good folks on the right side of the law, we'll bring you back in. Ben Bergquam, everybody.
Yes, sir.
All right, folks, before we go, a break, I just want to remind you one more time about my podcast and YouTube page, both updated daily. This show airs there, yes, but also brand new stuff that you don't see here. Gets a little colorful at times, the language, but so what? Subscribe. You got to hit subscribe on YouTube and anywhere else you get your podcast. Don't miss out. We will be back in 2.5 minutes with some really fun stuff. Kevin Sorbo, by the way. All right, folks, my next guest, not only an actor, not only a producer, not only a director, but he's also a family man who believes in inspiring audiences through uplifting faith-based stories. He's a champion for Christianity and Christian values and family unity. I'm happy to have Kevin Sorbo back with us today. Kevin, let's call it serendipitous booking. You were coming out. We lost the Pope. I'm Catholic. We lost the Pope today. What are your thoughts on it? And there are a lot of people like me who are probably saying, just didn't like the way the Pope was using let's call it the pulpit to move some woke ideas.
Yeah, I'm not Catholic. I grew up Lutheran, typical Minnesota boy, second generation Norwegian, but then I became a Calvary believer. So it's all the same God. But I was sort of interested what this Pope was doing. He was far more liberal than any other Pope we've ever had. And I know that he's appointed quite a few of the other priests around him. So we'll see what happens in this election. That'll probably take place in the next 2 to 3 weeks. But
go ahead.
But it's interesting. It's fascinating. We'll see what happens with it. I was very fortunate. I shot a movie in Malta years ago, and it was I had a 3-day weekend off for Easter. So a couple of other actors and we flew from Malta into Rome just to be there, just to see the Pope come out and give the sermon, give the Easter service. So just so that, to me, there was an amazing bucket list, a part of activity to be part of. It was wonderful.
Yeah. So a couple of things. Yesterday he was made an appearance. He didn't do mass at St. Peter's yesterday, but he made an appearance in the Pope Mobile. That the plexiglass Pope Mobile. Met with J.D. Vance, and a couple hours later, he from pneumonia to a stroke to heart failure, he passed. I just was told that Trump will attend the Pope's funeral.
Oh, that's amazing. The guy goes everywhere. Let's face it. I lived like 15 minutes from Mar-a-Lago. I've been very fortunate. I mean, I've known him since 2005 when we golfed together for 3 days. So I get there, invited to Mar-a-Lago out to meet him. And it's amazing that Trump makes the trips that he makes and the things that he does. I think it's a godsend, as you know, that he got elected back in there again. And I think it's great that he's going to do it. I think it shows a lot and shows a lot of character for the man as well.
Now, Kevin, we talked a little bit about your religious programming, the content you and your wife produced. Tell us this trip. You're taking a trip to Greece. What's this one all about?
We usually take a group of people to Israel every year. We follow in the footsteps of Jesus. This time around, we're going to follow in the footsteps of Paul, Apostle Paul, through Greece. And we still got 7 spots open, and people want to join us. It's going to be amazing. 12-day trip. It's September 17th through the 29th. Go to sorbostudios.com. Sorbo, my last name, studios.com. And click the news and events on there. Scroll down and get all the information on the trip. It's going to be amazing. And just because I played Hercules for 7 years, the last day of the event, we're going to go see Mount Olympus. Got to throw that in there.
All right. So is there a resurgence of religious programming, religious content production now? And I'm specifically speaking about since Trump took over. I mean, we went 4 years where it felt like religion and faith and spirituality had just vanished. The country feels, am I misreading it, that there's a renewed interest in your type of content?
Oh, no question. I've got 4 new movies coming out this year. I've got 2 are secular movies or action movies, and 2 are very faith-based. I've got 3 wonderful documentaries coming out. I spent 3 weeks in Israel through archaeological digs. We traced the flow of the Ark of the Covenant. That's called The Quest for the Throne of God. I've got an amazing one coming out on the Last Supper called Eating with the Enemy. They'll be out in about 3 months. And yeah, I think it's growing more and more all the time. There's a lot of independent producers out there. Hollywood's not doing it, that's for sure. They want to keep putting out the stuff they're putting out there. And I love the fact that people are saying enough for Disney, because I think their latest woke reincarnation of Snow White's going to lose about $300 million for them. But we'll see if that wakes them up. I mean, they seem to be hell-bent on putting movies out like this that just have, it's just this weird thing that they just want to hang on to this anger and hate and divisiveness. And we're fighting back. And I think we reached a pretty good tipping point with not only movies that I'm doing, but the movies other independent producers are doing.
Yeah, and Angel Studios all of a sudden has bubbled up or risen to become a pretty major player in Hollywood, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're huge. I mean, their biggest thing, the outtake was The Chosen, obviously. Dallas Jenkins was actually the first faith-based movie I did with Dallas, called What If? And I know a lot of fans out there, some of the movie God's Not Dead. In my mind, What If is a much better movie. And after all these years, after it was in theaters back in 2010, believe it or not, in August, they're going to reintroduce it into theaters again in this year in 2025, What If? So once again, Sorbo Studios for all that information.
Great. Kevin Sorbo, really good having you on, my friend. Talk to you again very, very soon, friend.
Always good. I appreciate you guys having me on. And remember, Patriot, go for it.
We'll love it. Love it. It's the right audience for that, sir. Kevin Sorbo. All right, folks, we'll be back in about 2.5 minutes. So, Fajardo, Puerto Rico, folks. Now, that is a really interesting place. On the backside of the island of Puerto Rico, most of the, El San Juan is on one side. The American hotels are next to El San Juan. And on the backside is Fajardo, and they have a really interesting thing on that side. There's luminescent algae. So that you can, like, go out in a boat. You can go out and they have these clear bottom kayaks. And the water lights up at night. It's fascinating. It's really cool. Well, today, day after Easter, a moment of change, of rebirth, new beginnings, folks, right? How fitting then for the founder and figurehead of the evil World Economic Forum, finally officially stepping down from his post, Klaus Schwab. After 55 years of trying to destroy humanity, Klaus Schwab is finally officially gone as the head of the WEF, or we call it the WEF. For years, he told us about his dream to make us eat bugs. Remember that? Want us to eat bugs. I'm sure he's eating filet mignon, but he wanted us to eat bugs. He created the World Economic Forum to try and control how we govern, how we live, how we eat, and how we spend. And the operative word is control. They wanted control over everything. And every January, the New World Order would descend upon the snowy mountains in Davos, Switzerland, to meet Klaus Schwab, the world's elites, taking their private jets and motorcades to drool over a net zero future. Private jets and motorcades to drool over a net zero future. I don't know, they ate filet mignon and salmon. With undertones of wanting to rule the whole damn world, Klaus Schwab pretended to be a visionary. And the Great Reset was his way of trying to control and govern the entire world using our money without having a single person vote for him ever, unelected, right? And what's crazy about this, he told us this was his plan every step of the way, and we still let him get away with it. Listen.
We face the backlash of millions of people, particularly in the West, who feels that globalization is not working at their advantage. And for this reason, what we have seen in the elections in the United States, in the Brexit vote, this anger of people against globalization and against the elites, which they feel have profited from globalization.
Yep, he's gone. That clown is gone. A slingshot in the heart of globalism. But the world that he and his New World Order soldiers worked so hard to create has long been set in motion, and it's not that easy to just get rid of it overnight. The push for globalism is still a dark, heavy force that lurks both where you and I expect to, and also in the deep corners you'd at least expect even some of them right here domestically at home. Whenever we see terms again and again in the mainstream media uttered by the leftist machine, the deep state swamp, that's not a coincidence. When Joe Biden peddled his so-called Build Back Better BS plan and wouldn't shut up about it in between his many naps, no coincidence there. In their world, there are no coincidences. Orders come from the top and they're carried out. Their New World Order organization from the very top to the very bottom, all levels in between. Listen.
It's a very pertinent question to ask, how do we build back better?
To build back better or whatever.
We have a chance to reset the clock and build back better than before.
To build back better than before.
Remember the terrible damage of COVID as we try to build back from this global pandemic.
Joe Biden calls it Build Back Better.
Build back better.
Building back better.
To do things differently. To build back better.
We're going to build it back better.
And build it back better.
It's my plan to build back better.
Start taking all the problems that have been created in education, mental health, and start to build back in a positive way.
I have launched a booklet called Build Back Better, Britain after coronavirus.
It's about building this country back better.
Build back better, they said. And in the better part, the plan only means one thing. It's their vision. Notice how Joe Biden picked up on that globalist Build Back Better theme. Those orders come from places like the World Economic Forum. Build back better. It's all part of their Great Reset. The COVID pandemic was a convenient way for them to do just that. Control everyone through fear. Stop dissenting voices. Shut down and rebuild economies and cities in their vision. Assist in depopulation and start all over fresh in their own vision for the world. How do I know this? Well, that pesky thing, the internet, that pesky thing, I know it because they told us so.
Huge change in the mortality rates in developing countries, which then has this effect of reducing population growth. That's this big benefit that then makes everything like education and nutrition a lot easier. So I have very high expectations there.
I hope many will follow you. We will facilitate it in any case, because that's the mission of the World Economic Forum.
Well, that was way back in 2008 when the New World Order soldier, Bill Gates, expressed his goal to reduce population growth through his global health program. And Daddy Klaus Schwab nodded along with joy, complicit in that plan. They always say it loudly and proudly because they're unwavering in their mission. They're always telling you their plan, their plan, you see?
Climate change, if we do not tackle with it, could be the next big, let's say, virus with much more damaging and long-term consequences compared to COVID-19.
Well, they couldn't get it done with COVID, so climate change is the next thing. And if that doesn't work, don't worry, because the Great Reset had many parts to its evil plan, and Herr Klaus never failed to reveal them. If a global pandemic doesn't work the way you want it to or the way they thought it would, there are always other ways to carry out the agenda, like getting right into governments.
That we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, are for our actually young global leaders of the World Economic Forum.
See, we need to penetrate these cabinets. Half or more of the cabinet are ours, Klaus Schwab said. Theirs. Who elected that guy? No one. But hey, who needs elections anyway? Klaus Schwab believes there shouldn't even be any elections. And how do I know that? Well, what is it? Oh, man, that darn pesky thing. The internet, and he told us so himself.
The next step could be to go into a prescriptive mode, which means you do not even have to have elections anymore, because you can already predict, and afterwards you can say, why do we need elections? Because we know what the result will be.
Pretty scary, folks, right? Pretty damn scary. That's what I mean. And just because the figurehead is gone doesn't mean the movement is gone with him. As we can see in plain sight, it's hard to undo a movement so long in the making with so much money behind them. Those are wealthy people. George Soros, the billionaire, has his progeny, Alex, well-trained and ingrained with the leftist elite. The swamp is holding both senior and junior near and dear within their twisted organization. Both Soroses. The judges they own, the district attorneys they control. Their system is well in place and clearly remains a well-oiled machine that can't stop and won't stop. And the same goes for the very top brass of the so-called New World Order trying to create the Great Reset. Today, President Trump took to social media and, as he so often does, said the thing that needs to be said out loud. The world will not be destroyed because of those who do evil, but because of those who sit and watch it and do nothing to stop it. Trump's right. Well, it's actually a quote by Albert Einstein, but it's good to hear it coming from the president anyway. Make no mistake about it. The World Economic Forum, pure evil, folks, pure evil. Klaus Schwab stepping down, symbolic at best, but he was just the face. He was just the face of the machine that is the New World Order.
What we have to confront is a deep, systemic, and structural restructuring of our world. And this will take some time. And the world will look differently after we have gone through this transition process.
Just because Klaus Schwab leaves doesn't mean it's over. It just evolves in the face of the growing MAGA movement. Someone else will pop up. The growing resistance around the world. Klaus Schwab resigns, and then someone worse comes along to penetrate the cabinets. Mind blown, folks. Mind blown. Penetrate the cabinets. We have half the cabinets. Or make us eat bugs to save the freaking environment, right?
We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
Thank God we got my favorite clip of all time in. Greta Thunberg saying, "How dare you?" Teary-eyed Greta. Sorry, Greta, but your boy Klaus is out. No fanfare, no speech, just bye-bye. There's nothing left to say, really. He's been saying it all along. You will own nothing and you will be happy. We, New World Order, globalists, will watch you through a digital ID. The world will be run by BlackRock.
The future is what I call stakeholder capitalism, which is combined with a social responsibility.
But as always, we need to ask ourselves why. Why now? Why did Klaus Schwab choose right now to step down? What's coming? What do they have up their sleeve? What are they afraid of? The era of Klaus Schwab may be over, but make no mistake about it, the World Economic Forum, it's a cult, and it's alive and well. The Great Reset just lost its face, but the agenda lives on. Beware. 2.5 minutes, Bannon's on the backside. Well, there it is, Hawaii. Never been there. Heard it's beautiful. It's amazing. Honolulu, Waikiki Beach. Is that what you said? That's what they're telling me. All right, welcome back. Let's bring in my favorite time of the day, by the way, folks. My favorite time of the show, my favorite time, because I learn something every day, and I hope you do too. Stephen K. Bannon joins the show. Steve, I know we want to talk about the Pope, but can we just do this very quickly? The guys put together a couple of headlines. This article came out about Hegseth by the New York Times, suggesting that he may have added his wife to a text or something. I see absolutely no big deal whatsoever. But here's what's interesting. These lunatics on the left, the media, they own the puppet lunatic media on the left, just jumped on top of the story. Hegseth is on short to go, and internally they're trying to get rid of Hegseth. I mean, article after article, and it's almost like they got together and said, let's just get rid of Pete Hegseth with no facts behind these claims. I will tell you, I believe that Pete Hegseth is going to be the Secretary of Defense for maybe the full duration of Trump's term. Your thoughts?
We went through this on the confirmation. We had to go fixed bayonets on War Room. They were 45 minutes away from getting rid of Pete Hegseth on that Thursday, replacing with Ron DeSantis, and the War Room posse and the Rev audience just rose up and said, Pete's our guy. We had his back for the entire confirmation hearing. Pete Hegseth had been doing an amazing job. Just ask the Houthis, and I'm no fan of the bombing, but it's been pulled off with just amazing precision. And I remember when we had the very first mission under President Trump that the Pentagon completely botched in the early days of President Trump's first term. So I can appreciate when you have a Secretary of Defense that's on top of things. They're out to get him. They're out to get every Marco they're coming after because of this reorganization of the State Department. Pete Hegseth because he's one of Trump's key guys. Pete's not going anywhere because it's a no-scalps policy. That being said, the question I have for you, brother, is why are we funding NPR? NPR came out with one anonymous source. One anonymous source. One of the number one stories in back of Bergoglio's death is Pete Hegseth the White House is looking for a replacement based on one anonymous source in the White House. NPR ran with it. I don't know why we're funding NPR, but the White House has already come out and condemned that as a joke. So we're going to talk about it in the show today from 5 to 7. We're going to have to hunker down on Pete. They're coming for him. They're coming for everybody on President Trump's staff.
Let me give you an example. Allow me to give you an example. I'm driving over here. I'm in Orlando watching the space launch this morning. And a reporter from a major magazine calls me, and he's like, hey, I hear Pete Hegseth is going to be out soon. What are your thoughts? And I gave him a quote, and I said, listen, you guys are nuts. I said, pretty evident that Pete Hegseth is doing the job he was hired to do, eliminate DEI from the department, lean hard into the Middle East, dispel DOD hires who don't display America First DNA. Hegseth likely is getting negative reviews from folks inside who've been axe to grind against Trump, or the perception that Hegseth came from Fox and not necessarily a career military background, but none of that matters because knowing Trump, as long as I can see the confidence Trump has in Hegseth. Read that as Pete ain't going anywhere anytime soon. I hope to God they print it. I think they might not, Steve, because it's too pro-Trump and too pro-Hegseth.
Not just pro, it's based on facts. You know Trump and you know Pete. You know both of them very well. And you know their interaction that Pete, they're coming for Pete hard because they understand that Pete is such a good advisor to the president, and particularly in the dangerous things we're up against throughout the world on the military national security side. So they're coming for Hegseth, and they'll make up anything they have to. And you know both men, they're locked in as far as men go, and as far as Hegseth being a great advisor to President Trump, that doesn't matter. You know that, Eric. I tell you what, is that supposed to print tomorrow? Because I'd love to see if that quote's not in there tomorrow on the handoff. We ought to go ballistic because it shows you the deck is stacked against Pete Hegseth.
Yeah, whenever that article drops, if it doesn't contain that quote, I will absolutely we will do that. Quickly, the Pope. You want to weigh in on the Pope, Steve?
Well, the president. We're going to start. President has announced he's going to go to the funeral. To pay respects. I'm not a huge fan of that, but I know the president respects the institution, and that's why the president is going. So we're going to talk a lot about that and other things today. Bond market's bouncing around there. Eric Bolling, what do you got to say about that?
Stephen K. Bannon, it's been a rough guy. I just don't like these tariffs. I don't like the idea of it. I think there are ways that Trump can lean on other countries to negotiate tariffs lower without actually, creating what could be, and this is being perceived as a potential mass recession. If you put a damper on the supply chain, you're going to raise prices. If prices go up, you risk, worse than a recession, which would be stagflation, which would be inflation with lower employment. I just fear it. I fear it a lot, Stephen. I hope he comes and announces Japan, and maybe that would be the impetus to get China on board to announce a deal. So, yeah, that's where I am.
I think they got a couple in East Asia. Anyway, Eric Bolling, thank you so much for doing the handover today. Appreciate you, sir, as always.
I'll see you tomorrow, brother.
See you. Great Eric Bolling knows President Trump incredibly well and is a buddy of Pete Hegseth.